squirrel ways
puesto,
out, and
ya
we don't know about
tenemos
injuries. There's
la
a lot of
fecha
variables we don't know yet. But if you
NFL.
go and look at the Ravens'
Vendremos
recent
con el
history in Arrowhead, it
Coliseo.
hasn't been
Muy
pretty. And
pronto
I just think if
vendremos
we're going to
con la
handicap this
NFL.
game this
El
many months out, then we need to look
Coliseo
at what's bankable
será el
and what's not. And
programa
the
que
Chiefs are
todos
basically running
estarán,
everybody back,
estarán
except for we'll
hablando,
see what
el
happens,
programa
obviously, a
de la
wide receiver
NFL que
with the Rice
estará de
situation,
boca
but
en
they
boca
doubled down
para
on
todos
potential
mis
reinforcements there.
participantes y
It's
para
Andy
todos
Reid
mis
and it's
suscriptores
Patrick
de mi
Mahomes, and they're
canal.
raising a banner,
Bueno,
and
el
they've got months to
Coliseo
prepare for this team.
es muy
I don't think the Ravens can ever
entretenido.
find a better scenario
Por
to beat
eso
the
se
Chiefs than the
hace
one that
una
they
vez
had right in
a
their
la
own building
semana, se
in
juega
January
una
in the
sola vez
weather.
a la
Not a great
semana
day.
la NFL,
75,000 Ravens
porque es
fans there. The
entretenido
defense holds
de
Kansas City after the first
principio
two
a
drives to
fin.
like
El
3.3 yards per
béisbol
play,
también es
and they still find a way to
entretenido,
lose that
pero
game.
la
Like,
NFL es
boy,
el
the Ravens
deporte
lost their defensive
más
coordinator, Mike McDonald, who
entretenido
was
que
something of a
tenemos
genius.
en
Like, they
todos
lost
los
Jadeveon
Estados
Clowney, right, their
Unidos y sus
best edge defender.
alrededores.
Like, they've lost, they lost Ronald Darby, who was their second best corner last year. Like, the right tackle's gone. Like, they don't really know 3/5 of their offensive line right now. Is Ronnie Stanley going to get through the summer okay? Like, how is this development going to work out with, Derrick Henry? And is there going to be a little bit of an adjustment there? This team lives in the pistol. He's under center. So, look, do I think they could beat Kansas City on a neutral field? Sure. Do I think they might be better suited to beat them towards the end of the year? Maybe. But right now, if I have to wager on this game now, I'll lay that 3 points, 2.5, shop around. I like the Kansas City Chiefs to make a statement week one against the Ravens. A Ravens team that led the league in sacks and takeaways last year, but just go look at that defense on paper right now. No Patrick Queen. They've lost a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Ravens for the first time since 1991. Detroit Lions have handsomely rewarded quarterback Jared Goff by making him the highest paid player in Lions history, inking a 4-year, $212 million extension. He led Detroit to a 12-5 record in the franchise's first playoff win in 32 years. So here's a look at the highest paid quarterbacks per average annual value. Joe Burrow remains number one at $55 million, and Goff sitting right behind him at $53 million. Then you've got Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson, those two rounding out the top four. We now welcome in Sportsline analyst Jason Lockenfora as we turn our attention to the NFL and dive into win total ragers. And let's begin things with the aforementioned Lions, who clearly has a lot of trust in Jared Goff and how he's turned around their franchise in just 3
Tendremos
seasons.
el primer encuentro de la temporada del campeón Kansas City se enfrenta a Baltimore. Ya tenemos el primer encuentro y el día miércoles tendremos los demás encuentros de la temporada y la pretemporada. El primer encuentro de la pretemporada lo va a abrir los campeones Kansas City
it's not my
un
favorite
día
play
jueves
of these
contra el
totals, and
equipo
it's
de
not my favorite
Baltimore.
play in this division either. But I do think if we're going to
En
size this up, this is a little
Kansas
bit
City,
different
por
territory for the
supuesto,
Lions
ya
now,
que es
right?
el
Like,
campeón.
they're actually the hunted. Like, this team could have gone to the Super Bowl. It's a different level of expectation than they're used to. And frankly, they're going to bring out a different level of preparation in a lot of their opponents. You touched on the division. This division's been horrible forever, but it's not going to be this year. It's much improved. You look at some of these teams, they're going to have to face the Texans, the 49ers. That's not easy. I know people want to write the Bills off. You still have to beat Josh Allen. That's not easy. I think Green Bay's the best team in this division, and I think Green Bay might be able to sweep the Lions. And we know that Green Bay has had success winning in Detroit, even in tough spots, like on Thanksgiving. So that's really kind of ultimately what deters it. Like, do I think two teams in this division are going to win 11 games? I don't. So, look, I think you look around, you can still get over 2-1 odds on the Lions to win the division, right? You can get plus money there. I played it at plus 210. You shop around, maybe you can even get it a little better than that. I'm sorry, the Packers to win the division. So that's kind of where I would go. Like, I think Green Bay wins this division. I think the Lions are probably a 9 or 10 win team, certainly a playoff team. but I'd have to lean under here.
A playoff team, but not necessarily maybe the best team in that division. You did mention playing the NFC West. You talk about the 49ers and the Rams in that one. That I still is a team I think that you might want to consider. And then also Bills. You say can't write off those guys. And also the Texans, a team that I think is truly ascending, especially with DeMeco Ryans and getting some of those pieces in free agency. All right. Well, as we await the NFL 2024-2025.
One exception being T. Higgins in Cincinnati here. What do you make of the long-term extensions that includes Antoine Winfield today? And also, what do you think happens ultimately with T. Higgins out with the Bengals?
Man, job well done for these organizations, Tommy, because the franchise tag is a tag that most players do not like. And the organization, they utilize the tag to buy themselves time, like we've seen throughout the deals that have gotten done over the last few weeks and months. So this was a plus for these organizations to find a way to get a deal done to, satisfy and give these guys that are deserving nice extensions. Now, in regards to T. Higgins, do I expect to see a deal get done with T. Higgins? No. Reason why.
Y hay otros que saben administrar dicha riqueza de cierta manera y de buena manera.
Higgins is not about his play on the football field. It's about what is surrounding him. Jamar Chase, rookie deal is closer to the end than the beginning. And at some point in time, you have to get into those negotiations as well.
Es el deporte en los Estados Unidos con más arrastre y con mayor afición, la NFL. Y yo sé por qué se lo digo. Por mi análisis es un deporte con mayor arrastre, con mayor entretenimiento, más oportunidades de pago, etcétera, etcétera.
An extension happen for T. Higgins.
Aprovecho este medio para darle un saludo a toda la familia Bracho, incluyendo al señor Michael Bracho, la señora Mike y su mamá que se encuentra con ellos, ya que su papá se despidió de este mundo, pero les dio un buen ejemplo y un buen ejemplo que nos dio a todos los compañeros que pudimos conocer al señor José Bracho. Un saludo para todos.
The Bengals have not one but two publicly players, I should say, wanting to get those deals done. That's our Brian McFadden with the breaking news again. Antoine Winfield Jr., the highest paid
Para
NFL.
ustedes, el beisbolero farandulero los invita a suscribirse en su canal y les invita también a suscribirse para sus apuestas y sus datos en los parlay, que totalmente será un ganador de esta manera y saldrá de la fila de los perdedores. Yo mismo te lo aseguro. Y para salir de la fila de los perdedores, solo tienes que llamar al 609-816-9001. ¿A dónde? En los Estados Unidos, pero llama por WhatsApp.
What is your reaction to the deal and seeing a safety at the top?
Por delante, el más
That's my initial
1-609-816-9001 y gustosamente lo atenderemos. Recuérdense que le estaremos dando toda la información del mes por tan solo $20. Es tu opción salir de perdedor. Así me ayudas a mí y yo colaboro
And this is a
contigo.
monumental thing when you talk about the money that is now invested in Antoine Winfield, solely because of his position. He plays the safety position. And when you look at the different positions on the defensive side, it's safe to say the safety position when it comes to money has kind of been devalued, similar to what we witnessed and watched with the running back position on the offensive side. And safeties are very, very important when you talk about defensive structure, but they just were not paid like some of their other peers on the defensive side. So for Antoine Winfield to do this, all the other safeties are applauding this new contract that in the National Football League, forget about just singling him out as a secondary guy. He was one of the best defensive players in the National Football League. So when you pay Antoine Winfield north of $21 million, the player that you're getting is a guy that can be a big-time contributor in coverage, right? We saw what he meant to Tampa in regards to getting turnovers. The 6 interceptions or the 5 or 6 interceptions that you mentioned, that was huge. But you talked about also being number 2 in tackles. He plays the safety position. So Antoine Winfield is basically 3 players in one. He could be a linebacker based on his ability to tackle. He could be one of your best cover guys when you talk about being able to create turnovers. Not to mention, he also can play the nickel or dime. He's done so throughout his time there in Tampa. And then also being the ultimate traffic cop, the last line of defense when he is in the post playing for Tampa. So this is a guy that has done a lot of different things for Tampa on the defensive side. All of those things he's done extremely well. And because of that, he just was able to sit on the bank with a crowbar and basically broke the bank today.
I was about to ask you what you like most about his game, but then you just laid it out. It's everything. It's all the different things that has now made him the highest paid defensive back in the league, and in your eyes, justifiably so. Let's talk about the Bucs here. 9-8 last year is not glaringly, big or glamorous, but you win the division, you get a playoff win as well, and they're really bringing back the core. We're talking about Jason Light here with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and now Antoine Winfield Jr. What do you think about the offseason that Tampa Bay has had up to date?
Offseason has been pretty stout for Tampa. And when you talk about the money, right, you had some guys that were clearly, there were some unknowns with them when it comes to the future with this organization. You were able to sign Baker Mayfield, huge, important factor. You were able to sign Mike Evans, another important factor offensively in totality with his leadership. And then you brought back Antoine Winfield Jr. today. And don't forget about Levante David as well, right, Tommy? They signed him to a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. He's been one of the main catalysts for their production and his leadership being within the organization since being drafted years ago from Nebraska. So this was a great offseason just from the veteran presence that they had to get deals done to be able to continue to have them be a part of their organization. And then when you factor in what they've done via free agency and then the draft in a very winnable division once again, because Tampa won this division a year ago. They didn't do so convincingly. They were better than the other teams in the division. And then when they got into the playoffs, they played some of their best football. Round 1 against the Eagles, and even in a second round loss to Detroit, they played lights out. They just did not have enough to be able to get that job done. So when you factor in the momentum and how they finished this season, yes, they did lose in the second round, but they exceeded the expectations, I believe, and then having a real good offseason. I mean, you have to be really, excited about what this team could do, barring good health, staying focused and staying dialed in, and under the tutelage of Coach Bowles, who's done a real good job, keeping these guys focused.
As of today, just pinning you on today, you like Atlanta more or Tampa Bay more?
Wow, as of today, that's a heck of a question. I'll say this, and there's a lot that can happen between now and the first week of the NFL season. But I'll go Tampa right now, and I give Tampa the edge, Tommy, because I've seen them do it. I've seen this group of guys that's down in Tampa do it. And I'm not talking about the championships with Tom Brady, because Tom is long gone, even though you still have some of the key guys still there in the locker room, like a la Antoine Winfield Jr., Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, right? But the guys that we saw a year ago, the majority of those guys, they're still there. They got the job done last year. With Atlanta, you have a new coaching staff that I believe in. I believe in Coach Raheem and his staff. New quarterback, new personnel. We just haven't seen them do it yet, right? We haven't seen them do it. How long will it take for Kirk Cousins to establish chemistry, establish the continuity amongst his offensive teammates? The same can be said with this new scheme defensively. These guys got to really get adjusted to sooner than later. So that might take some time. For Tampa, man, they just got to keep the ball rolling. They got to pick up right where they left off at, in Detroit, and good things will happen. So I give Tampa the slight edge right now, but I'll tell you this much. I do believe Atlanta will be a more entertaining, more consistent team. They're highly talented. I love what they have done in adding more talent to their team. But right now, I give the edge to Tampa.
Okay. Once again, it is up for grabs. It'll be fun to see how it all plays out. Speaking of how it's all played out, 9 players received that franchise tag, BMAC, a couple months ago. 8 of the 9 have now signed long-term deals, the lone exception being T. Higgins.
Set to tee us off with a big one, a rematch of last season's AFC Championship game with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the MVP and Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, who look a little different. Season opener on Thursday, September 5th. Of course, we're getting little pieces of the schedule the closer we get to the fall. The Chiefs, of course, defeated the Ravens, if you remember, in that AFC title game on their way to that second consecutive Super Bowl championship with Andy Reid and the crew. The full regular season schedule will be revealed on Wednesday night, but taking a look at it when it comes to history, on Thursday nights in the Chiefs in that opener at Arrowhead Stadium. 3rd time in 5 seasons, they defeated the Houston Texans. If you go back to 2020 and lost to the Detroit Lions in 2023, they're now 2-1 when it comes to kicking off on Thursday since 2002 when they introduced that Thursday night opening game. All right, join us now, Brian McFadden, checking in with more on this. And B-Mac, just your initial reaction to the league, giving us fireworks in that first game with Chiefs and Ravens.
I love it. I love it. Of course, this was, one of those question marks in regards to who the NFL would put in that first game with the Chiefs. When you look at the Chiefs' schedule, so many worthy opponents, but this right here is star-studded, right? Right, Brandon? It's star-studded when you talk about the head coaching matchups with Andy Reid and Coach Harbaugh. Remember, Harbaugh is coming from Andy Reid's coaching tree and a guy who he's looked up to when you talk about becoming a head coach. When you look at the quarterback star power with Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, when you look at the 2 outstanding defenses that we've seen in the last few years as well, even though Baltimore will have a new DC in place when these teams kick off Thursday night. But this is a great matchup. 2 teams that have championship aspirations. When you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, they're in the midst of this dynasty that we've been raving about. I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. And when you talk about Lamar Jackson, just finding a way to get through this gauntlet of Pat Mahomes. Right now, when you look at Pat Mahomes, he's almost like the Michael Jordan of the NFL. When you look at the AFC, and Lamar Jackson is like the Charles Barkley of the Pat Ewing, trying to get through MJ to be able to get a chance to compete for that sticky Lombardi. A job well done by the NFL and giving us this sneak peek about what the entire season will look like, knowing that this Thursday night matchup will feature 2 outstanding teams led by 2 outstanding quarterbacks.
I see that wordplay there, been raving about. I see what you're doing, B-Mac.
With a huge win.
Speaking of setting the tone, if you remember back in February after they won that Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes already said that they're thinking about number 3, the 3rd one in a row when it comes to that Lombardi. It's never been done before. Given they still have that core intact, what we've seen over the past couple of years, could we see history from KC?
No question. Barring a good slate of health, right, Brandon, from the Chiefs. We know health is a very, very important factor in a team being super successful consistently. But when you factor in what they have in place, I understand when you talk about their wide receiver 1 and Rashee Rice, not knowing his status. Will he be disciplined? Will he be suspended? We believe he will be suspended. But even with him not in the lineup, when you have number 15, when you have number 87, when you have Andy Reid, and by the way, I like to throw in Taylor Swift as well, because clearly she brought some good luck charm to the Kansas City Chiefs. Who is stopping this team? For all the naysayers that bet against the Kansas City Chiefs throughout the year, throughout the playoff run, they proved you wrong, because they have Michael Jordan at the quarterback position, a guy that will find a way to get it done. So to answer your question, yes, I believe, barring a great slate of health, good health, right? No question, this is a team set up to have a monumental year and doing something that we never seen done before in this Super Bowl era, which is winning 3 straight sticky Lombardi.
Oh, I guess they already made history because, like you said, the Swifties won a Super Bowl. So we've never seen that before, of course. And maybe she gets another one. Zach is on line 1. He is not a fan of that happening again in 2024. B-Mac, as always, my friend, appreciate you breaking everything down when it comes to that season opener. But take a look at the Super Bowl odds heading into 2024. Oh, look. It is not the Chiefs at the top. It is the 49ers at 550. Then we find the defending champs at 6-1. The Ravens behind them at 950. Then the Bengals, Lions, and Bills all tied for the fourth best odds at 13-1 when it comes to winning that Super Bowl.
In teams led by two outstanding quarterbacks.
I see that.